Welcome back, everybody, to the Nerding Grounds podcast. This is a weekly show where we talk about new and old video games, lately mostly old video games, and anything else that tickles our fancy in gaming news. How are you, Matt?
Good, good.
Good, good. Oh, I'm Quinn, by the way. Whatever.
Not
Um,
important.
so this week we are still going to do our retrospective deep dive on a particular game for the PlayStation 1, also known as the PlayStation at that time, called Ape Escape. I've never played it. Matt, did you ever play it?
Yeah, like a little bit, right? It's
Like,
actually one of my games that I played at Walter's house, to be honest.
oh, okay.
Though that might
Nice.
have been Ape Escape 2. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I've only seen bits and pieces of gameplay for this, but this was definitely my first foray into the Ape Escape universe, which, oh my God, what a big universe, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
Bigger than I expected. Um,
absolutely.
Yeah, and then last night we remembered that Gamescom kicks off this week with opening night live. Jeff Keighley's end of summer announcement show, I guess what you call it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Who in this
game
new
show.
age of canceled E3s and Jeff Keighley stage productions, it's hard to keep track of what's what.
All
But
of that, yeah.
yeah,
No,
you can
I
rest
thought it was
assured he'll
just
always be there.
the Game Awards. Well, right. As well as he should be, if we're
Yeah,
being honest.
yeah, he's a slick dude.
Yeah,
The Game Awards are coming in December, but yeah, this is like the big worldwide video game conference uh, show floor thing. Apparently, it's just totally massive in Germany. There wasn't a lot of new announcements, just I guess housekeeping. It really felt like on some of the new things that are
right.
upcoming, which I think is smart. You people want to know that nothing's being pushed back, or they might want to see some fancy new trailer stuff. So
Yeah.
I thought we would just quickly go down the list. We don't need to spend too much time on it. You can catch the whole 2 hour presentation on YouTube if you're so inclined. But yeah, I thought we'd go back and forth and just talk about what we liked from the show, or what at least grabbed our interest. For me, it was definitely Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I'm just kidding. Boy,
Not a Call of Duty fan, are you?
they spent so much time
They really did. That was
on
such a
Call of Duty.
large video on, like, okay, not knocking anybody who enjoys Call of Duty,
I am.
right? But yeah, but it's not like we're seeing anything different, right? They're not announcing some wacky new idea in the Call of Duty universe. This is
No,
the
but the way they
same thing.
introduced it, it was like they were. They're like, oh, there's all the different paths you can take and you can approach. And then they just showed a freaking Call of Duty level. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
like
okay, I'm pretty
literally.
sure the first time you released Modern Warfare 3, this is maybe you could just do like a one-to-one comparison. This just seems like Call of Duty, and that's fine for people, I guess. I don't know. But I was just like, okay.
Yeah. I got a little bored right around then, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a lot of it that was a little boring. How did you feel about Diablo 2, or I'm sorry, Diablo 4 Season 2?
So looking at the trailer, I mean, for one, we were even talking about this a little bit beforehand. I don't expect much in terms of like major changes to the game or major improvements to the game at this point, right? Because this has already been in the pipeline, like that. They look at like Overwatch. They even directly said then that there's not really going to be anything coming for season 2 because a lot of the big changes are looking to are really scheduled for like season 3 and beyond, right? Because this is already
Right,
made.
right. It was
Um,
clearly gated content.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean that's something else entirely, but right, but the pipeline of their seasonal releases, it's going to be like, okay, they basically we're working on 1 and 2 and beyond all at the same time, and it just keeps like cascading. Uh,
Yeah.
so any changes, any major changes that they want to work on, I mean, everything that's set to come out for season 2's already been done, right? So they're not even going to bother till later on.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Uh, it does also like looking at how things are going to be, which is fine. I mean, it's just seasonal content, but I mean, here we are, season 2, and it has the exact same sort of uh what's the word I'm looking for? Um
Outline.
yeah, yeah, outline as the first one, right? Here's a
Yeah.
person, there's some sort of plague. We need you to help stop it. You don't have malignant powers, you have vampiric powers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they said you're a daywalker. They really wanted to say Blade. You could tell they just wanted to
Yeah.
say, you're Blade. You have
Well,
a vampire partner.
I guess they wanted to um follow with that due to them releasing the Vampire Knight class in Diablo Immortals. So,
Yeah, definitely.
we gotta help push that a little bit more, get people back on that whale train, as it were.
Well,
I, I wait and see.
best of luck.
Unfortunately, it's just as more time goes down, as time goes along, I feel myself more and more disappointed with Diablo, but we will see.
I feel like you've fully gotten caught up in Baldur's Gate. I'm sure,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you'll
yeah.
have a chance to jump into that at some point, but I feel like that showed up and was just like, you could play Diablo for hours on end, or you could actually play a game that
Well,
makes you feel something inside.
I couldn't. Like, I couldn't even finish, obviously, just from
Yeah.
the from buying I didn't buy like the super deluxe thing, but I bought the, like the middle of the road package.
$70
Yeah.
edition or whatever it
Well,
is.
they're all
Yeah.
70 now, so 80 or
Gross.
whatever. It was a gift. I I couldn't even finish the season pass that came with that, right? Like
Yeah, that's not a
I
good sign.
no, I really couldn't. And it's a grind too, which it's like
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
want to talk about it anymore.
all right. Well, let's move on to something I'm super excited about, which I don't know if you remember, but last week, or not last week because we skipped a week because I was on vacation. Week before that, I told you I had gone back and played Little Nightmares 1 all the way through because I loved the second one and I just had never played the first one. They're releasing a third one.
Yeah, I saw that.
Extremely exciting. I thought that franchise was going to be dead after that studio was acquired. But it looks like Bandai Namco has. Oh gosh, what was the studio? I just had this on the tip of my tongue and then I forgot. It's one I've heard before. Mm-hmm. Um, it is. They're just not going to tell me.
No.
Okay, that's so fun. But yeah, Bandai Namco has a new developer on that, so I'm hoping it still has, you know, the same flavor and everything. Supermassive. That's who it was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Um, but the original creator's not on it anymore. So it's been on a little hiatus and yeah, they're just really entertaining puzzle platformers with really striking visual art and I mean I could see that from this trailer, so I'm not worried about the art necessarily, but there's always a lot to pull from under the surface of that game since there's zero dialogue. It's just all you are going to infer from the exploration of the 2D levels and, you kind of gather it yourself. So there's a lot of theories and different threads that people have followed online to try and unpack the lore of this universe. So I think that's really important.
Well, yeah, we shall see
Yeah.
if the new developers can keep that same sort of flavor going.
I mean, Supermassive is a good developer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's if you don't know, those are the people behind all of the I, I guess you would call them like movie game style games, like the Dark Pictures, Until Dawn, The Quarry, all of those. So it's an interesting. That's definitely a departure for them from their recent work. So we'll see how that works. Um, there's also a big update coming to Cyberpunk 2077 that kind of impressed me. I'm not even gonna lie. I was not expecting that much of an overhaul, um, but it's not just expansion with a new district and new missions. They're completely overhauling that game. The skill tree, different weapons that you can use, the driving. They're adding car combat and all kinds of stuff. So they continue to update that game in meaningful ways. And I was about to dive back into Cyberpunk, but I think now I'm going to wait until October
Yeah.
and get the expansion and just start over and just see how that game has fully come around.
Yeah, it does seem like a good time to just restart and when it comes out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and replay that game. I am pretty excited about it. It did set itself up. It has been setting itself up to be like kind of a big sort of expansion. Um, yeah, and I'm all for it. I'm
I mean,
excited.
yeah, it's just ever more clear that this game was never ready for launch when it
Give
came
me some
out.
more Keanu.
Give me some more Keanu. Um, so yeah, I'm excited that game's still alive. I've always liked Cyberpunk. I I think the hate came from the hype, and it just wasn't ready to launch. And I'm
Yeah,
glad it's still alive.
it was a mess.
Yeah.
Should have never been on PlayStation 4, right? Uh,
Mm-mm.
or was it
I
play?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
was it?
wasn't, yeah. Yeah. And they're updating the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions with this update because I think those versions are
Was it
more
PlayStation
playable.
3?
No,
What version did
It was PlayStation 4.
that they had to like pull basically and
Yeah, because
stop selling for a while? Yeah,
they were just trash. They didn't work.
yeah, which is crazy. But
Any, yeah.
I mean, if you played the game in any past couple of years, you realize that they actually did go through and fix just um the vast majority of the performance issues. You know?
Yeah, I played it a couple months ago for like, I don't know, 8 hours or so, and I was happy with the improvements. I just, this is more of an ideal time to go back to it.
Yeah.
Did you see Alan Wake 2?
Previously, I did not see the video for it.
So
Is
they
it?
did a really cool thing with this showing where they talked about because you know how their games have always had some live action integration um, control, like you'd find
Yeah,
those I guess employee videos of the scientists talking and stuff.
yeah.
Well, Alan Wake 1 had kind of like a Twilight Zone show that they produced that was just a fake in-universe show. And so this one was showing them
I like
blending.
that stuff. I don't
I
know
do
why.
too.
Yeah,
It's very novel.
yeah,
So yeah, they're just fully doing a kind of like a going in and out of live action and game graphics, and it's not entirely seamless the way they said it, but it didn't bother me. It didn't look off. It looked really cool. 1 second he's going through this nightmare world, and the other second it's an actual actor in live action in the real world. And so I think they're going to do something really cool with how that goes back and forth.
Hmm. I will have to go take a look.
I've been trying to get to that first game, but I just don't know if it's my cup of tea as much, or maybe time just hasn't been super kind to it. And they
Uh,
remastered it,
Right.
but
Yeah, I don't know if time's just been good to it.
it's a little tedious with the combat. I would almost prefer just a investigation adventure game, um, or something more along the lines of like a Resident Evil.
Well,
But
and I mean that looks like they're doing more like Resident Evil with the new one. But it
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, that's why they kind of dropped all that with control. That's just
Hmm.
almost
Well, yeah.
combat maybe does take a little bit of a backseat in that game in general, but it is just, shoot 'em up almost.
Yeah, and I mean, Control really puts my faith higher in what they're going to do with this. I
Yeah.
Because that game's great, and
Oh yeah. No,
you
I
know,
love that game.
I think if they take what they learned from that, realize that everybody really liked Control, it'll shape up to be a decent thing. We saw a little more. We saw a lot more gameplay with Black Myth Wukong, the I
Yeah.
guess Souls like, where you're the you know
Monkey.
Chinese monkey man,
Yeah.
um, based off of some 16th century novel, Journey
Wukong.
to the
Yeah.
West. Yeah, that looks neat.
It does. It does look neat.
I also thought Crimson Desert looked neat.
Which one?
So, what
It's
I've gathered is that Crimson Desert is a single player open world RPG in the universe of Black Desert Online.
okay. So it's that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am a little interested because I
Y-
definitely talk about well, I've talked about like MiHoYo or whatever.
mhm.
Um, creating a more not gotcha experience. Well, I feel like on the same a lot of these Korean, Chinese companies, they have like a lot of really great ideas, but maybe just their marketing strategies aren't for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but I really like the idea of them making a more single player experience, right? Without like monetizations, just a fully realized um, RPG or ARPG experience sounds pretty awesome. Because like a lot of the combat, the reason why people like Black Desert is for its like action combat, right?
Yeah, and that sounds promising. And this definitely showed a lot of interesting combat options with
Yeah.
switching back between ranged and fighting and grabbing enemies and
Oh yeah.
using
There's a lot of
fire and
that.
different
Yeah.
shit. Yeah,
Well, especially there are some things that they try to really make work in like an MMO type of world with
hmm
I guess like crowd control and yeah, like grappling and stuff like that.
yeah,
That
that's
is
just
just going to
never.
work so much better, not as like a live service
Well, when
game
you're
or
the
an
one
MMO.
doling out the damage and you're controlling the battle, you can't have several people doing that. It just turns into a mess.
Yeah, it turns into a giant mess, right? And then
Yeah.
latency and all that good stuff come into play too. That can make it a mess.
It looks incredibly expensive. That's all I have to say. I mean,
It does. I mean, it's definitely
looks
their
like one of the most
engine.
high fidelity things I've
Yeah.
seen.
I think whatever engine they work with does have a lot of like really good lighting effects and stuff. So it
Hmm.
it can simulate um I, I guess higher fidelity without it being like just a complete and total massive hit on your computer. Not to say that these are the best running games ever. I'm sure it's going to have its issues, but yeah,
Yeah.
it does, look incredible.
Yep.
And but yeah, just space wise, looks insane.
I know. It kind of gave me the that feeling when I saw Ghost of Tsushima for the first time, and I was just like, "Holy shit! How are you? How is this running?"
No, yeah.
But
Well, that's something else entirely. I really don't know.
I don't know. Let's see. Sonic Frontiers is having an update. I never beat that game, so I don't
Yeah,
know. I guess I might try. It's a free update, so
might as
it's
well. Yeah.
why
Yeah,
not?
I need to like run through it more. I just feel like
Haha.
it's close, but not quite there as far as what I would like from a Sonic game. But hey,
I really lost speed.
it's cool.
Haha.
Haha.
On the third world, I was just like, okay, how many times we're gonna do this? It started to feel like a really, really, really long demo.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care about the story. I don't even know if there is one necessarily. But in this trailer, you have like Dr. Robotnik next to Sonic and Team. So I'm like, what happens at the end of that where there's like a greater, I don't know. I was slightly intrigued of why that was happening.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, I started to kind of lose interest when the laundry list of what's that developer that makes Honkai Star Rail and
It's
everything.
I don't
You said it
exactly
earlier.
MiHoYo, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they call themselves something a little bit different these days, but I think it's MiHoYo Universe or something.
Yeah, either way, I was just like, okay, that's great. Like 3 games that almost look identical, and I have no idea what's going on because this trailer is just built of flashy combat and absolute nonsense dialogue that's just been pulled from everywhere.
Yeah, so I don't. I need to see the list of what like exactly what they were showing, but I'm pretty sure it was more like just content update about Star Rail Impact, and then maybe some Genshin stuff was in there, and then I think one of the big presentations was for a game
It was like
from a different developer. That's
Zenless Zone Zero.
yeah, that one. I think they're trying to be the next MiHoYo. I'm sure I'm
And
pronouncing that wrong, but
are they? Yeah, I don't know what their whole thing is. Hoyoverse.
that's what it is. HoYoverse. That's what they're calling
Well,
themselves
then
now.
Zenless Zone Zero is also Hoyoverse.
Oh well,
Or
there you go.
so
Is it?
Genshin Impact is Hoyoverse?
Yes.
Okay, so Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero are all Hoyoverse games that are completely unintelligible to me. And that's
And
probably the way they're going to stay.
I I don't. It's so hard to describe. I guess those games like they're so insanely gotcha,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like that is the premise. That entire game's basis is to try to just catch as many whales as humanly possible.
And you can watch it and just have this feeling in the back of your mind like somebody is losing their freaking mind over this right
Yeah.
now. They're like, "Oh my God,
That being said, it's one of those games that I stopped playing because I felt like it was too
you were
good
being
at.
abused."
Well, it was too good at drawing my attention and getting me to play every single day and doing all these little
Yeah.
tasks
Yep,
every
yep, yep.
single day. And then when all that runs out, you're like, huh, well, I do really want this character. Let me go reach for my wallet.
What did this add to my life? Is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
where you're at.
It does have surprisingly good story elements though. And
Well,
there are certain moments that are like just epic,
well,
right? For like better word.
it clearly got tons of fans, so I can't put down its quality there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that was pretty much most of the big updates. I
One of
guess
these
before,
days they'll give me what I want and just make a not gotcha game. But hey,
yeah, we'll see.
I doubt it. I really doubt it.
I think mega corporations would have to start wanting trillions of dollars first.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that happens. Yeah. So opening night live, there it is. There's a lot of games coming out before the end of this year. There's a lot of games that have already released this month.
There's a
So I
lot of games
guess,
literally right around the corner.
oh, it's ridiculous. I mean,
I don't even know. I
Bomb
know.
Rush Cyberpunk already released.
I know.
Um,
And I feel like I just don't have I can't commit to that, right? Because what we're like
that's
5 days
exactly how I
away,
felt.
4 days away from Armored Core 6, right? You got to play
Yeah,
that, but then Starfield's like right after that. I mean, granted, I don't think Armored Core 6 is going to be that long of a game. I think it's
probably
like 11
not.
missions or something like that.
And it seems like something that I wouldn't mind putting down and coming back to
Right.
maybe after I've played, 50, 60 hours of Starfield. Um, but yeah, I mean, I couldn't even. by the time I got back from vacation and everything, I was like, it's way too late for me to try and get into Baldur's Gate 3. There's just no way. Because I know I'm going to play Armored Core and Starfield. And then Bomber Cyberpunk, I was just like, I didn't expect it to be $40. And, well, we are not sponsored video game pundits, so we still have to pay for all of our games.
That is true. Unless
So,
somebody out there wants to send us a review copy, that would be cool.
right, right. But we need more likes and shares. So get on
Yeah,
that, everybody, if you want us to
yeah,
get free games. Um, yeah, and so I was like, I'm gonna have to wait on that one. And I feel bad because I think that's more of an indie situation, but you know, $40 is a big ask right before a $60, $70 purchase.
it is.
So I just had to pass on that one for now.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
like I
we,
don't necessarily giving it pedigree. I don't
yeah,
mind
yeah,
the paying that much, but yeah, it's just I know I like if I'm not gonna play it. Like I'm not,
it's gonna
I'm
fall right off and I'll forget about it forever versus I don't know, if it's $20 in December,
yeah,
that sounds perfect.
that does sound perfect, right?
Yeah. And then
Plus,
Sea of
looking at it,
Stars
it
comes
looks.
out.
I mean, it looks fun. It also looks a little rough. Like it looks like very Jet Set Radio. Uh,
Even down to the janky controls.
even down to the janky growth. Like a time capsule. Like I'm playing it on Dreamcast. That's what that game looks like. So, and I'm not sure if that was just um development issues or if that was 100% intentional to have that game look and feel like that time period. Which I mean, we
Yeah.
we almost have a podcast dedicated to this. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think that's a bad thing, but looking at it without playing it, definitely need to play it. Like even when you do things like hit stuff or do certain tricks, it just looks eh, not janky, but not fully
Like it needs some polish.
yeah, needs
Yeah.
polish.
Okay. Well, maybe that one gets an update and it's in a better spot.
Yeah.
And then Sea of Stars is
Gotta play it.
also still on my freaking list. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to play that because it's right in between Armored Core and Starfield.
I
So
know. I
I
know.
don't know. I don't know.
Hot take though, both that and Starfield is on Xbox Game Pass.
Oh, well, I'm definitely playing Starfield on Game Pass, so that's gonna give me a little bit of a break, I think.
Yeah, it's like as much as I would like to buy it and own it, I am paying for the Battle Pass right now.
I
I
don't
think yeah.
feel pressure to buy something on Xbox's storefront. That to me is just weird. I don't know why. I'm just like I
Wait,
it's not Steam, and I guess that's maybe
it's not
what
Steam.
it might be on Steam, but
Oh, I gotta look that up. If
yeah, I don't know. It might be on Steam, but it's
it was just on Xbox, I would be like, yeah, no,
no, the
no,
Xbox storefront. I'm just like I don't know. I don't
no. I really
spend
don't want to
money
mess
on
with
the
that.
Xbox
Yeah.
storefront.
I've passed up many a games on Epic storefront because it's not on Steam. So why would I buy anything on Microsoft?
Well, nothing. Yeah, it's
I
no
feel like it's
allegiance
on
thing.
Steam. Yeah,
It's that feeling of not wanting to open up my computer and figure out which six clients have which games.
yeah.
I've already stopped playing Ubisoft and EA games for that reason. I'm just like, go to hell. I don't care.
I have all my physical copies on one shelf too back there. Well, one bookcase, but two. I'm not going to spread that out. That's just weird.
I have it on a couple.
Well, yeah, but
Doom, doom, doom. That's me just flexing my
I mean, they're the
nerd
same type
display.
in the same area. All right, it makes
Yeah.
sense. You're not going to have like a random bookcase in your living room
No,
with some of your games.
no, that's madness. That's
Yeah.
insanity. All right. Well, that covers our wrap up of upcoming games that we're looking forward to. So you can expect us to talk about Armored Core next week because I think it's coming out day after tomorrow.
Yeah, it's either the 26th or the 27th.
I love when video games release on a Friday and you just get to do
I hate
that
it.
all weekend.
It's mostly Friday.
Oh, it
I
sucks
work
for you because
weekends.
you work.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
worst. Literally the worst.
No,
Except for I
no,
get to
no.
get off at work and play
And
games
just
instead of going to
load
sleep
up
like
some
I
Armored
should.
Core.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to move over to the retrospective corner?
Yeah, let's. No, I don't want to do that. Just kidding. I played a lot of that game. Let's go.
It works. It actually works. We did it, Natalie. We did it. The time station is complete.
We don't have time for celebrating. We've got to do something.
Welcome to the retrospective corner. Hi.
Also known as the old people corner. Or
Welcome to the old people corner. We talk about games that most people don't care about anymore.
Yeah,
but
we
we
unless
do.
they do. Unless they do. In that case, welcome.
Yeah.
This
And
is what we used to play.
This is what well, not this one for me, but today in the retrospective corner, we are going to be discussing the 1999 PlayStation hit Ape Escape. I cannot tell you how many times I wanted to say Monkey Ball, but
Yeah, I get it. I could see it.
it's just too much.
Makes sense,
Um,
right?
yeah. So,
Uh,
if you haven't played this, this is the first game in the series developed in 1999, and it was a huge success.
yeah, it
And
was.
also, it was the first game to explicitly require the DualShock controller with the two analog sticks on the PlayStation system.
Right.
And it does a really interesting thing with the right stick where you use that for combat and everything.
Yeah, I remember being gravitated towards it for like some reason,
Mm-hmm.
like playing it originally as a child, and then now it's like there was
Child.
something about this game that was always really interesting to me. And it was definitely the DualShock controllers, little thumbstick controls.
Directional combat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which we're talking about at a time where DualShock controller kind of just came out. Actually, they didn't really have
No, yeah. It
the
was
dual thumb. Yeah, it was just the original PlayStation 1 controller was just a D-pad.
no, video game history is littered with instances of people not knowing what to do with their controllers in
Yeah,
game development. And now it seems so obvious of like, well, you can use the right one for camera but no,
yeah,
nobody ever wanted to do that. It was all about what can we do with this right stick? It has to be used for something. I know. We'll swing a
yeah,
sword in whatever direction you put it in.
yeah. There we go. I mean, it for the time, I could definitely see how 100%. I mean, we're dealing with shit cameras anyway.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
game somewhat better. Like for the time period, I like it's not Gex's camera. You know what I mean?
No, the camera's fine. It's just it's put on the D-pad, which is
Right.
typically right under the thumbstick. And so you can't use both at one time. So you have to stop and then manipulate the camera with the D-pad.
Yeah.
So most of the time I just wound up pressing L1
Or
and
R1, yeah, to
or what R1's jump, L1 is
oh yeah.
reload, put camera behind you. And so and I grew up doing that with the 64 and whatnot. So
Right.
that doesn't really bother me. I'll just lock it to my back. Any game that has that is fine. Um, but yeah, it definitely one of those things of I can see where they were going with this and it's ambitious, but it feels freaking weird now.
Yeah, it does. I mean, especially starting off, it's a little frustrating. I think even at the time, that's what people kind of were saying that like it was difficult, I guess, at first, but then once you get used to it, it becomes refreshing, and that almost still holds, right?
Yeah,
Would I
yeah.
like a game today with these type of controls, no, because I mean there was more than a couple times I'm just like, okay, just let me press like triangle to use my stun saber, you know.
All right,
But
because you're basically allocating, you go through the game and every few levels you get a new gadget,
yeah,
whether it's your little beam saber, your net, your radar, your
slingshot,
slingshot, which I could
hula
not.
hoop that makes you Naruto run.
Hula hoop that makes you Naruto run was which is probably my favorite.
I know it's great.
But you have to put those on the face buttons, and then you have to select them before you use them with the analog stick. So that doesn't really ever become fluid. You always are kind of just like, all right, wait, all right, now I'm hitting. Okay,
Yeah.
now I have to catch. And so every time I wanted to pull out my net to catch one of the monkeys, it was always a little too slow, and I like just barely got it.
I frequently would, for some reason, press in the direction that the whatever like quick slot I had the net assigned to. So obviously it was mostly on X.
Hmm.
Uh, whenever I hit X, brought out my net, I would swing backwards, right?
Oh, okay.
As in like down the direction that X is, as opposed to my beam saber, which would be triangle. I have no idea. I did that like every time.
Yeah, so your
I just
brain
don't.
has to like
Yeah,
has to make it make sense in a
yeah.
way, and
So I'm like X down. At one point, I was like, "What are you just like? Are you stupid? Like, why are you doing this? I don't get it." Like,
it's what we call non-intuitive design.
yeah,
At the time, it was interesting. Now it's like we have had decades of dual analog stick controllers, and they've varied. I mean, look at the GameCube.
right.
Um, but for the most part, we've figured it out, and our brains have through the course of playing 200-hour games and fighting games and first-person shooters, our brains have retrained and been like, no, this is the way you use this controller to do. And so when we encounter something this old, we're just like, I have no idea what's going on. It feels like I'm wearing shoes on the wrong feet.
Yeah, definitely kind of that moment. That being said, that it's a fun game. I played it
Fun game.
probably more than I've played any other game that we reviewed to this point, right? Like I felt myself not really wanting to put it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because it it's a solid platformer. I also feel like it doesn't have a lot of those things that make platformers from this particular period of time just like frustrating and annoying, right? Like really
Right.
annoying jumps, Like there are some, but for the most part, that's not really the point of the game. Point is to find these apes and capture
Yeah.
them with your net.
Yeah, and there is a good variety of the things that you're catching. I guess let me do a little more background before we go into the core of the game. So, as I said before, this was a 1999 release, and it reviewed super positively and was put in line with games like Super Mario 64, believe it or not. And so essentially, this tells a story of
You
an
can
ape
see it.
named, yeah, an ape named Spectre who gets enhanced intelligence from something. I don't know. There's not a lot in the story, but basically, it
Professor makes some
a
type of
helmet.
yeah
Yeah,
that makes them smart.
yeah. So then Spectre Ape makes an army of apes that goes running rampant throughout history, trying to change things. And so you're jumping into levels, which I guess alongside a rival, kind of
Yeah,
like Pokemon style, which
yeah.
they don't say much about. I
There's like
you
a
just
little scene where
they get put
he
into
just
the
yeah
machine.
he gets well no like he gets introduced by the evil
Mm.
monkey guy, and then apparently that was like your friend that you're just discovering is evil now.
Yeah, he's evil now.
Hello, Professor. Remember me? It's me, Spectre, the future leader of the new age. That's right. Apes will soon rule the world, just as it should have been from the beginning.
Spectre, what's going on here? What are you planning to do?
Spectre, oh yes. You're the monkey that performs at the amusement park.
What? He's that cute little monkey that everyone loves to come and see? But how?
Yes, that's right. I stumbled onto this incredible invention of yours, this peak point helmet, and it's given me remarkable knowledge and great powers. And now, I plan to rule the world. And I owe it to you, Professor.
Spectre, you must listen to me carefully. It's true that the peak point helmet will augment your intelligence to heightened levels when it's worn. However, it is still incomplete. It's never been tested and may be very dangerous to use. I insist that you bring the peak point helmet back to me immediately.
Bring it back? Are you kidding? I'm sorry, Professor, but it's too late. I've already made duplicate helmets for my new army of apes. There's no stopping us now. The future is mine! Don't try and trick me into giving this helmet back, Professor. I'm smarter than you. I even figured out how to use the time station. I've already sent my armies back in time to rewrite history. No longer will humans be the dominant species. I will rule this world. Don't bother trying to stop me.
Huh. Spike will find you. Just wait, you'll see. We're not gonna stand around and let you take over.
Spike? That little runt? He doesn't scare me. I've got a surprise for him.
Jake!
I've always wanted to go up against you. Now here's my chance. I'm gonna have a great time destroying you and showing you who's the real hero.
What's happening? What's wrong with you? Do you realize what you're saying? Do you know who you're talking to? Snap out of it. Pull yourself together. Can you hear me?
It's no use. Somehow he's been brainwashed and he's being controlled by Spectre.
That's right, Professor. You're very perceptive. The boy you see here isn't the same anymore. He works for me now. I'm in control, and no one can stop me, especially not you. Well, I've got to go now, but I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
And he randomly comes out to race
Challenge
you.
That was a BS race, by the way.
Yeah.
I tried it like 5 times until I finally beat it, but I was like, you're cheating. You're just cheating. I don't know how you jump like that, but it's not fair. Yeah, so Spike is the player character and sets out across a bunch of different worlds and levels of varying design. You know, your jungles, your beaches, your floating platforms in the sky of ancient ruins. You know, this is the 90s. And you use a variety of gadgets, which we listed earlier, to go capture all the apes in each level. And then, yeah, we kind of explained how the analog sticks work and everything. Yeah, and there's a little bit of story, but not too much. It's mostly just a collectathon, you know.
Yeah. Not as much story as any other
3D platformer from this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though, man, I really love the PlayStation. Playing this game definitely like reminded me of
I know what you
just
mean.
how much. Yeah. Like this period of gaming is just so if anything is nostalgic to me. It's playing like PlayStation 1, but playing games like this too. I'm just like,
yeah, PS1 and
loved it.
N64. That was, I feel like, when we really started grasping games in like a, you know, like I'm going to play this game through. I'm not just messing around with it. You know, like most of my Super Nintendo experience until I got older was in fact that. I wasn't looking to beat those games because I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But we were like 8, 9 years old when this came out. So it's much more firmly implanted in our memory.
When we start getting into things like Ocarina of Time at this point, which we relentlessly beat and
Yeah.
obsessed over, right? We started to thus comprehend games on a whole different level.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so we definitely, the nostalgia factor was high here just for the graphic design and
Yeah, well, it's just the overall feel. It's the charm of
yeah, there's a
of
lot of charm here.
the period, right?
I think that's why I wanted a little more interaction story-wise between
Right.
levels, because it did after, I don't know, the like 7th or 8th level, I started to just feel like it was a very repetitive routine. And all they would tell you was, I found this new item for you. You now have a hula hoop that makes you run like Naruto. But there wasn't a come back to base and talk about what we've stopped historically, or I feel like you
Yeah.
could play this game and the historic part of the story doesn't land at all. Maybe it's
No.
different in the end. I don't know.
There is zero depth there at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, yeah, I don't know, shallow in terms of any sort of story.
Yeah.
That takes a complete total backseat.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
when did Mario 64 come out?
The year prior, 98, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
98.
I guess this already had to be in development, though. I do wonder. It's Sony Entertainment, and they they always seem to come out with like PlayStation's uh answer to some other systems uh like
That's
mainstay video game, right?
that's been their play pretty
Yeah,
much is, and I think that's why people make fun of that one Sony commercial where they were kind of making fun of themselves when they're in a like a speakeasy and there's like 30 mascots arguing with each other. It's like Sony is the oversaturation of mascots, while
yeah,
Nintendo has always been very good at solidifying Link, Kirby, Mario, Samus, and like
right.
these are our mascots, these are our characters, and PlayStation's just always making someone new.
Yeah, I just don't think they've ever well they've never been able to get that household name, right?
Yeah,
They just
but
they
it
haven't
doesn't
hit it
really bother me because
either.
I like Sony for the variety. There's always someone different to follow, and it led to things like um, you know all the Naughty Dog games and Sony Santa Monica, like all these games that have really great open worlds and premises that they don't have
Right.
to make a Crash Bandicoot every year
Yeah, no.
because that's not really what I want from Sony.
Same.
Yeah.
And I think at some point in time they realized that, but this is like the dawn of the mascot,
Yeah, yeah.
So
This was
you can
definitely
somewhat see. I mean, it seems like it is a very well put together game.
Mhm.
Um, outside of any sort of story, but any game, any platformer in that period of time didn't. It's not like it had. You were Mario, say Princess Peach, and that's it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
whatever the
And
hell was going on in Banjo Kazooie, I don't know.
yeah. And this one
Many other games.
you are legitimately a monkey catcher. It's a collectathon, but not in the way that something like Banjo-Kazooie was.
Yeah.
Which brings up a good question. What are all of Do you ever find out what all the little triangle bits are for?
A little triangle bits. Once you get 100, you get an extra life, which
Oh,
seems very inconsequential. But they again the time period they were like, yeah, we're gonna have lives.
you gotta have collectibles. You have to have points. I
Yeah,
thought it was like a upgrade your stuff later thing, and that never showed
the
up.
circle. I wish that would have been super cool. The circular
Two
coins,
nets,
yeah, new nets would have been maybe like some sort of net reach extension. That would have been dope.
a double-sided net.
Yes, yes. So, did you get far enough to where you get the helicopter blade thing?
No, the last thing I got was the hula hoop, and I beat a couple levels with that, and that was pretty much it.
Or
Um,
you get like a double-sided like fan thing that looks like a really cool weapon, but it's to make you like helicopter spin so you can super
Oh,
jump and glide. It's actually
that's
really
neat.
awesome. Yeah,
That seems like something that should have come earlier. Like right after
probably.
the
But I
net.
mean, I guess it would have trivialized a lot of things. Well,
Yeah.
it's actually used to go back and like redo levels. They give you a lot of incentive, maybe not a lot of incentives, because I don't know what the point of fully completing or getting more monkeys is. It's not very clear.
Yeah, because you
Getting the
definitely don't get them
coins,
all
yeah,
in especially
yeah.
the later levels. You
You
can
have to
tell
like
there's
go
like
back,
half a level to explore, and
yeah,
but you've gotten 6 monkeys, so it automatically pulls you out,
right. So
which
yeah,
I
you
think
can
is
kind of go
interesting.
back and get more monkeys. But I mean, there is no clear. I'm not sure to beat the game if you have to get all the monkeys, but
Maybe.
uh the coins, like the big circular coins, unlock mini games, which are
Yeah.
interesting.
And too expensive because you needed 10 to unlock the first one, and
Yeah.
I think by the time I stopped playing, I had 3 coins, and I was just like, okay, this
Oh,
first one
really?
should have been like 5 coins max to unlock, just to introduce
The
that
mini games, yeah.
part of the game.
So it's literally rocket skis. Uh, it's pretty interesting, actually, how more. Uh,
Like what's going on in those mini games.
yeah, like I don't know. There's actually a little bit more to those too. It's weird
Mm-hmm.
because the avatars are uh like Peta Peta the rapper. I'm forget how to
Parappa
Parappa the
So there
rapper.
are other
Yeah.
PlayStation mascots that are like guest starring.
Oh no, I just meant they're like paper
Oh,
to, like looking, they're flat.
gotcha.
I
Yeah.
don't but
Cut
you
out.
literally have though that would have been cool too. If you had sorry, you have rocket skis that you control each ski with each thumb pad,
So they were just
right?
all in on that.
Yeah, yeah. So you go around the corner, you're like, yeah. I
They're
don't
just like, we're gonna make some weird shit with
know.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you? I would assume you got into the rafts where you had to row, like both thumbsticks.
Hmm.
But that for me is probably the worst part
It broke
about
my
any of the
brain.
explosions. Yeah, I'm just like
Yeah.
I can't do this.
Yeah. I thought the monkey catching was going to be harder,
Yeah, no,
but I mean, you can either just sneak up on them. There's some that have guns, and I hate them. They're
yeah,
really annoying. And that's where the camera totally pissed me off because when you're in a moment where you're chasing down one of the monkeys,
some sort
you
of
can't.
lock on would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah, a lock on would be great because a lot of times you're just flying blind because the camera either goes in a direction or gets locked behind something, or you can't see who you're chasing, and then either you run into an enemy, you run into a wall, or like the monkey turns around and just shoots you or throws a banana peel at you. And so trying to dodge that on top of like hitting it with the sword and then hitting immediately switching to the net and bringing the net down, it's like those things aren't difficult on their own, but all together gets really finicky. And
Yeah,
those are the times where
yeah.
I was just like, oh my god, can you just stop?
Especially yeah. If you have like other enemies, like the little octopus things shooting at you,
I hate that.
uh, yeah, not that. That is where it gets really just discombobulated.
Well, not to mention there's a delay on the swing. So you really have to
There is.
swing before something gets to you, otherwise it's going to hit you first.
There's a huge delay on the swing,
Yeah, you're
actually.
like,
I think
huh,
that's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you probably wouldn't ever get hit if there
no.
wasn't, but it is weird.
But it
Weird.
feels off sometimes. But yeah,
Definitely. Oh
once
yeah,
you get
no.
used to it, it's fine.
Yeah. It feels off a lot of the times, but it's what it
Um,
is, I guess.
and so did you look up any of the sequels? Because I saw there was, so there's a PSP remake of this
Right.
one in
Which I don't think was
2005.
very well received at
I
all.
don't think so either. Well, one, and I immediately thought about this. I was like, the PSP doesn't have a right stick. It
Yeah.
doesn't really even have an analog stick. It has a nubbin,
Yeah, a little
little little
yeah,
little circle nubbin, which is one of the worst things ever created and put on any video game system.
absolutely. Like it
So
looked cool. It was
yeah,
definitely huge form over function,
oh for
but
sure.
you know, I don't really know what they were thinking with that one.
No. And then I looked. So Ape Escape, I think they re-released it for PlayStation 2, and then right after in like 2003, not right after, but Ape Escape 2 was in 2003, and then there was just this big stretch of party games and mini games, which totally makes sense when you think about how they were working out just the different functionalities in the levels. And like you said, the mini games where you control skis in fun ways and boats. It's like clearly they
Right.
all wanted to make like a Mario Party
Yeah,
and put that together. And so there's a
of course.
bunch of those. And then Ape Escape 3 doesn't show up until 2005. I'm tempted to go look at that one and just see where the series ended.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that one was horrible. I think 2 is supposed to be pretty good, or
Hmm.
or actually good. It just kind of follows suit on the first one. I'm very interested to see what 2 is like. I'm sure 3 is. I didn't even know they had a 3. I don't ever remember that, but of course that was a long time ago. So
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know
I
how
assume it's
3
hot
did.
garbage.
I mean, the series did kind of fizzle after that. So
Yeah.
maybe it did. There was some like weird PlayStation Network only releases, and I don't think they were, it wasn't like a part 4 and 5 or anything. 3 was the last numbered one. Um, but I know people have been clamoring for this series to be revived. And I don't really know why it hasn't. It seems like an easy one to recreate.
Yeah. To
Just
be
dig back
honest,
up and
make
see what
like
you
a
can do.
great Switch game or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
definitely.
definitely could. I mean, and rightfully so. I mean, again, it feels like a very well put together game, especially for the time. They were
Well, yeah.
clearly trying to make it. They were trying to put a really good platformer on the PlayStation because I mean 64 had that in strides and they continuously kept coming out with them. While the PlayStation has never been known for that, and I mean really
Well,
they
no,
needed it.
yeah. I mean,
And
well,
this
you've
this is
had,
it.
yeah, like Crash Bandicoot was one,
Yeah, but that was a
Spyro.
little different, I guess, in the way that it played. It was very,
Well, they had the
I don't know,
levels where
like
you're
push and
running toward the
forward,
camera, and then they had the side-scrolling levels. And so I don't know, Crash Bandicoot's just kind of all over the place. And I think
Right.
it was never my style, but and Spyro missed me totally, even though I want to go back and like play through the Spyro games at some point.
No, well,
Um,
Spyro's good.
yeah, I just always feel like PlayStation platformers have been more of a niche group of followers. Like, no, these were it for me, while everybody else had Nintendos
Yeah,
or
pretty much.
played PlayStation for things like Resident Evil and
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that.
Definitely seem more its cup of tea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I was gonna say I feel like this game started out as a platformer, and then they further developed it to have all of this other stuff on it, because it could almost exist as a jumping platformer with the way that they've designed the levels and the swimming, and even
Yeah.
the underwater sections don't really turn me off that much. Like they're
Yeah, no.
okay. I
Yeah,
think the
no, they
controls
really
could use
are,
a
yeah.
little tweaking with the up and down, but for the most
Yeah.
part,
Well, yeah, I mean, like, literally just to go up, it's stop.
let
So,
go.
let
Yeah.
go, which is weird to me. Just let me look up, but, or
It feels
down, I
strange.
guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And then to go down, you have to click in the stick.
yeah, clicking the
It's
stick,
just
which
like,
they
good
were
God,
really just trying to use everything,
they
I
were trying
think.
to use everything.
Yeah.
I
Push those dual shock controls.
was like, the L and R buttons exist, you know?
I
It's
guess, yeah.
gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anything else to say about Ape Escape?
I do have a interesting little side note that I
Mm,
discovered. So,
let's hear it.
the developer and the two producers, well, at least one of the producers, they're actually like sound engineers and sound
Oh, okay.
producers, and the director never ever directed any other game after this. At least
That's
from what I could
interesting.
discover, he might have done like one or two little things that never left
Yeah.
Japan. But what? Yeah, I find that to be so weird because this was definitely like a commercial success and well received, but he never directed another game.
That's
He
crazy.
did a lot of like sound producing or sound engineering roles within the gaming community. But same thing as a producer. Actually, I have to look up his name because there was two of them. But one of the producers apparently is the guy that definitely did the PlayStation 2 startup sound. But I think he did the PlayStation 1 startup sound too. Yeah.
You mean two of the greatest sounds in history?
Yeah. That's the guy that produced this. Yeah.
I'm gonna go look for a text tone of that like right now.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It
One
is.
thing I'm realizing as I'm
I
looking
really wonder why.
over,
I couldn't figure out why. Find out. I mean, I guess maybe they just didn't want to, but
yeah,
couldn't
it's
find out.
possible for sure. One thing I'm realizing as I'm looking at this YouTube footage I pulled up just for reference, there are totally bosses that I just did not see in these early levels.
For what?
Like, they're bosses that I just missed
Oh,
from
yeah.
these earlier levels because I just didn't go that way, and I found 6 monkeys before reaching those bosses or reaching those areas. Kinda crazy that the
There
levels are
is
that expansive.
there is a surprising amount of exploration. Yeah. Like I said, there's reason to go back.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I wish
Uh,
they would tell you that on the select screen of, like, I mean, they tell you how many monkeys there are
you
at the
have to
beginning.
go to the level. Like you literally have to
Oh.
click on the level, and then during the loading screen for the level, it'll tell you how much monkeys there are.
Does it
It will
count the ones that you've captured?
It does count the ones that you capture, and
Huh,
basically once you capture all of them, you can do like a time attack sort of
okay.
thing. Um,
Yeah,
it will also say when it's 100% cleared, like without
interesting.
you having to go all the way into level.
Oh, not just your generic cleared? That's
Yeah,
interesting. Look, I, I just yeah. Games tell
I,
you a lot more these days, and I'm spoiled.
yeah, that's that is extremely true. Even this, I didn't tell you shit. This game tells you a little bit more than most, to be honest. But
Yeah, no. Overall, this is higher up on my list. Which reminds me, we haven't rated a game in a while. We rated the first game that we did, and then we never rated another one.
I know I thought about that the other day.
So
So we're what? I mean, this is like for me.
if we're looking on, let's look at it in a silo. This is the
Right.
retrospective scale. A 10 is not a 10 today, but a 10 in the retro mindset that we're
Right.
traveling back to.
Then it's an easy 8 apes out of 10.
I
You know?
agree. I actually was thinking 8 apes, 8 bananas out of a bunch
Yeah, that'll
as
work.
well.
Bananas. We're doing bananas. But then what was Diddy Kong? Was Diddy Kong bananas or
If we're looking at, I'd say a 9. Oh, like a
yeah.
bananas. Yeah, I guess Diddy Kong would be banana, unless we can find something more obscure. 8 firing barrel or 9 barrel barrel cannons.
Uh,
8 Kongs, or not 8.5 Kongs.
okay. But yeah, no. So for its time, this is which is actually right around the reviews at the time. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think this
8
is.
bananas out of 10.
I think Diddy Kong might still be my favorite that we've done,
Right.
but this is a close second for me.
That also felt like just a fully fleshed out kind of game. Like this
Yeah, yeah. That felt like
feels like to me.
this is what platformers are supposed this is what 2D platformers are supposed to be type
Yeah.
game. Um, I don't know what the worst game. Dino Crisis is one that I'm like, I can't beat this game. There's no way in hell I'm getting through this.
It
So,
is just maybe while I feel like it does hold its own to like Resident Evil, it is the same concept of going back and playing the original Resident Evil not remake, just the original Resident Evil.
Yeah,
Same concept. It's a little rough at this point.
it's an absolute chore.
It is, maybe a chore.
Yeah.
I would like to run through it. Again, that's why I would say it's like one of these days I need to check out the second one to see if it's kind of brought enough improvements to the play.
Yeah.
Enough improvements for me to play it, be able to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd probably put Dino Crisis at a 6 annoying key cards as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Gex is like a 4.
Yeah. Gex is like a 4. I don't know. Especially when you play something like this, a platformer made around the same time.
Yeah.
That is just feels so much more put together
Yeah. Like
than
you can
Gex.
pick up and just play the shit out of this game and you don't have
Yeah,
to.
I was literally enjoying it. I
Yeah.
was enjoying my time just playing this, and I was planning on just running through like an hour, get some footage, playing like on and off a little bit. I played it for like 3 hours straight.
Well, I found myself wanting to
Something
see
like that.
more levels because I'm like, where are they going to go next? What are they going to do? And I was on vacation playing this, and it was great, especially coming in off the beach or just being exhausted, and this was dumb fun most
Yeah,
of the time. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
me too.
Well, we can talk about games that released in 1999, even though we've definitely done that already, and we're gonna have some repeats. But we have Resident Evil 3, Final Fantasy 8. We've already talked about those. Silent Hill, Donkey Kong 64, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, System Shock 2. Trying to find something that we haven't mentioned from 99. You got Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage, so that tells us that Spyro was well
Yeah,
in
Spiral's
into its
already in.
run by the time this came out, so that makes a
Mm,
lot of sense. Gex
it
3
does.
had released this year. So Gex
I
was
don't even
performing its
understand
swan
the.
song.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Something new. I think we've talked about all of them. Super Smash Bros., Chrono Cross,
Yeah.
Pokemon Snap, Harvest Moon 64. Need for
Probably.
Speed, High Stakes.
Wait, what?
Need for Speed, High Stakes.
What
I
was that even
I think
for?
that was a PlayStation Need for Speed, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think it had
I
to be,
mean,
huh?
yeah, I guess so.
Asheron's Call. If
What?
that
What?
tickles your fancy.
I don't even remember what that is.
I think it's some D&D game. I don't know. D&D games in the 90s were for a very, very specific audience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mario Golf. Anyway, we got to get out of 1999 if we're going to talk about other cool releases of the time.
I mean, it's hard. Clearly, it was just a very, very cool time period, right?
It's so cool.
I mean, I guess we can get into like the early 2000s, but then it's just like, it's not the 90s anymore.
Right?
I'm gonna
I,
start
yeah,
scrutinizing games more and more
right.
for being,
Well, yeah,
not as old as the 90s.
and then you have to ask the question, what is retro? What's the cutoff for retro? Is
If
it
we're
20,
talking
20
to,
years?
I mean, if we're talking to the younger generation,
It's
it's
like 10 years.
yeah, like a lot, like basically everything prior to PlayStation 5 at this point is probably a bit retro.
I feel like everything pre 2005 works for this podcast
Yeah.
until, I don't know, we develop another segment or whatnot. But I feel like that's where my cutoff is going to be for the time being. Because, I mean, we were 15. That
Yeah.
was half of our lives ago, more than
I
half.
don't know. And then you kind of start to move away from, older games and how they were made, how they were built, like what they were about, as opposed to you start to get into your Assassin's Creeds and your
Yeah.
Call of Duties and your like these things, even if that is like the first Assassin's Creed's retro, I'm not going to talk about it like it's a retro game.
Yeah, like
Mm,
it's a dinosaur bone in a museum because that's kind of what we have going on here is yeah, this is just uh, like I can literally experience this for the first time because it's been out of pop culture for so long while I still remember the first Assassin's Creed very
Right.
clearly.
Well,
Um,
and you know, if you want to play as like have an Assassin's Creed experience, I mean, there's one. There's a million for one. There's
there's
probably going to be
one coming
one.
out
Yeah,
this year that
yeah.
harkens back to the first one, so have
And
at
guess
it.
what? There's going to be one coming out the year after that too.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
sure.
much, pretty much.
And less of it just starts dying financially.
Yeah. But
Uh,
if you have a retro game that seems to fit the criteria we just very expertly explained,
or anything they want to bring up, they'll be like, "Hey, you guys are wrong. You should play this. It's
that's
great.
true. That's
It's from
true.
like 2006."
Yeah. We already had somebody point out to us that Gex 64 was definitely the worst version of that game.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, maybe we should have looked at PlayStation, but we didn't. We looked at the worst one, and it was still something. But
It was still something.
yeah, yeah, send your
You
ideas
really
to
start to doing this, have you noticed? You really start to just see the performance issues of the 64
Oh
compared
yeah.
to
Yeah.
like the PlayStation. Like this
Absolutely.
game, I mean, of course, you know, did not play it on an original PlayStation, so that would definitely make a difference. But I feel like there's so much less jank here than there is on any N64 game
No,
outside of like Mario, you know?
that was very that's very much been the case growing up is realizing how um not optimized the 64 was for a lot of the third party games that came to it and a lot of the first party games too. But I mean, you have stuff like Quake and Doom on that apparently are like the worst versions of those games. And I just never knew. I just
Yeah.
didn't know that was a thing. I was like, oh, on PC or PlayStation, this game performs and plays well. And there's even more content because it was cut in the N64 version. But
Which is crazy.
that's
Absolutely
crazy.
crazy.
That's crazy. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for stopping by and joining us for another episode of the retrospective and also our little wrap up of Gamescom opening night live. If you have any questions, please send them into thenerdinggrounds@gmail.com. I will be checking that address periodically, or just comment on YouTube and we'll try to dig it up from there as well. Subscribe to YouTube. Check out our TikTok account. I'm posting videos pretty much every time the podcast comes out. And yeah, share it around, tell your friends. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great week and weekend. Be nice. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
What's happening? What's wrong with you? Do you realize what you're saying? Do you know who you're talking to? Snap out of it. Pull yourself together.